Hi everyone, hi every spirit, welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me on the speed build today. Today we are building the second house, the Taurus house, and I wish you enjoy it. This is actually one of my biggest builds I've done, especially on this series, right? The first house was Aries. It was a way smaller house than this one. On this one I decided to exacerbate myself and actually create something pretty big, pretty abundant, very full of fruits and veggies and abundance all over. So I decided to make this character more like a farm girl. She has her own winery, and you can actually add, I did this build before the horse ranch came out, so you can actually add the real winemaker or nectar maker, shall we say, as well as the little shelves and other things that would make part of the pack as well, which I think is pretty good. I will add it myself as well, so if you are interested in that, make sure to let me know, because I think it actually goes very well with this house. And yeah, I really think the horse ranch pack, for example, really goes well with this. And the cottage living, I added a lot of things from the cottage living pack to this build as well as a lot of CCs, because I think CCs really complemented this build very much, and I think without them you don't need that many, but I think there are some pieces that are actually that go really well with this house, especially the interior, especially the winery. I've added I think it was Studs CC, where you have like a lot of wines and a lot of things that have to do with like bars and restaurants, so a cool detail to have. You can download it on CurseForge as well, so if you want those CCs, make sure to check it out. I used majority of CCs was like Felix Andre, Harry, and their collabs obviously, as well as Studs, as well as Sam, I think that's his name, and yeah, a few more, but I will let you know all the packs that I have. I will put this up on CurseForge or the gallery. Make sure to let me know if you want to see this build. And let's talk about the second house, Taurus, and let me explain why did I make the Taurus house, the second house, like this, right? So the second house is the house of your values, of what you value, of what you like to communicate and relate to on a basis of more individually, right? Because relatability also relates to the seventh house, but the second house is all about the Taurus, is all about being fixed on your own way to be practical and be realistic, because Taurus is all about realism. Taurus is earth, fixed earth, and that's exactly what it means, you know, fixed stability, fixed practicality, fixed ways to make sense and maintain stability and practicality, maintain some structure and ground levels, so you don't go too much into la la land, and have some form of stability and ability to relate. Why relate? Because Taurus is the internal side of Venus, and Venus, if you know about astrology, you would know that Venus is all about relationships, is all about relating, beauty, communication, because to relate you have to be able to communicate in some form, maybe not in language, but in some form of gestures, right? That's why also the Taurus is correlated to the five senses. It's what you can show, it's what you can feel, it's what you can see, what you can hear. And many times, if you have, for example, the moon, your moon in Taurus, your moon would be exalted, because the moon is exalted in Taurus, and by it being exalted in Taurus, your senses as well are exalted. So not only your senses, the five senses, but also your sixth sense, or your internal sense, which Not everybody will hear, not everybody will smell, not everybody will feel, touch, and so on, but you are the only one that might be feeling that. So that's the part of the exaltation of the moon that Taurus plays in, right? So Taurus is pretty deep, although some people may say that Taurus is very superficial, or that Taurus likes to eat a lot. That's not all, and I wouldn't say that Taurus is actually superficial. I would say that Taurus is actually quite deep in relationship to all the other signs, without counting in Scorpio, which is the opposite to Taurus. Both of those signs are pretty deep, and I wanted to show on this build how extravagant, how sophisticated, as well as caring Tauruses are, you know. The second house is all about values, is all about communicating your values and relating on a level that is more, let's say, personal, because it comes right after the first house, which is personality, your own individual interests and affairs. And the second house is all about you bringing your individuality and creating some value around it, so you can value others by the way that you look at yourself, as well as value the world in a way that makes sense, is practical to you, and that encourages you also to maintain that stability and practicality with whomever you wish to relate to, right? And actually give some correspondence, give some even advice, even some benefit of the doubt, you know. So not every Taurus, and I think the majority of Tauruses don't trust anyone right away, right? I think Tauruses are much more analytical, and they can see and they can sense if somebody's coming with some bullshit, because they know about that bullshit, you know. They know that there are people that ain't shit. They know that there are people that will pretend to be someone that they are not, just to please them in some way for a fast gain. And Tauruses can feel that. Tauruses can see that actually there are some deeper things going on, and we have to be careful here, right? So Tauruses really have their senses more refined, and I really wanted to show on this build with this character that Tauruses have a lot of interests, and that they can take care of a lot of things, and that they can maintain stability and practicality throughout time, especially throughout time, right? It's more of a building process and maintaining process rather than a quick get rich scheme, for example, right? Where you would know more Capricorn for it, where they would create this new idea, and there would be it makes sense at the moment, right? So they can gain profit quite quickly from it, right? But it doesn't mean that Tauruses can't do that. It's just Tauruses prefer to build on something that is long term, that they know it will benefit them in the long run, instead of having to cater to the world and having to adapt, right? Tauruses are way more fixed. They are more stable and, you know, building throughout time, as I said, right? And yeah, this is where I'm building the I was building the living room, and I really wanted to make like a dining table and like deep colors. If you notice on this whole build, I decided to go for the deep woody colors. I decided to go for the deep greens, deep purples, some reds, some blues. Obviously, blue is very much correlated to communicating, to clearly letting know others what is it that you want. And greens is very stable, and I think green and the dark would go really well together. I think they complement each other on the stability and practicality basis, and the blues go very well for the lightness and, you know, communicative side of Taurus. And I really wanted to add this whimsical touch, a little bit more of an old school vibe. I really wanted to make this quite detailed as well as quite refined, so you will see me adding a lot of details. I will go also over it in the end and take out a few of the details, because I think I've cluttered a bit too much in certain places. Not everywhere. I think some places really needed to have that detail, but other places were just too cluttered. For example, the kitchen that I added on the outside, which is like separate from the home, I decided to make it a little bit less cluttered than I initially made it, but you will see it in the when I will make the kitchen. You will see that I add too many details in a few places, and I wanted to give her space to actually build, you know, to actually not build, to cook, and to actually create something without having to, you know, worry about space and things like that. And yeah, I imagined this character. I called her Taurus the Second. Yes, very very creative. And that's the same I did with the Aries. I call them Aries the First, and I think it's quite suiting. And I wanted to make her a cooking sim. They really like to cook. They really like to create some new recipes for the family to try, for the neighbors and friends to try. I apologize for my voice, guys. I just woke up a few minutes ago, so bear with me here. And I imagined her creating various dishes and things like that to actually make some dinner parties with her friends and neighbors and family. And I think I imagine that's something she's passionate about, you know. I created her as a woman, obviously, because it's the internal side of Venus. It's obviously the feminine. So you would see that Aries' first house is the masculine, pushing outwards. Then you have Taurus, which is the feminine, keeping inwards and, you know, making sense, practicality, and so on. Feminine, masculine, feminine, masculine. But we are going to go through that on the next one with Gemini as well, which is a build that I've already started. But this one, this build was a special one because first you can notice that I made it huge, right? I even made a basement for the winery. And yeah, this was a huge build. When I finished it, I had like 16 hours of recording. So then I went to the video editor, and then I started to speed up, right? Because this needs to be sped up. So I sped up all these 16 hours, and it came down to like 4 hours and something. So I still had 4 hours to edit out, because there were a lot of places where I stopped a bit, where I was thinking, or where I was trying to do something and it didn't work. All of it made into the videos, right? So I had to edit that out, and that's why it took so much time for me to actually publish this, because it took me so much time to edit this, and I was already getting a bit tired editing it. So I would take pauses, then I would edit again, and yeah, it in general took a little bit of time. I also was focused on my projects when it comes to my clothing, and I was doing a jacket. You can check it out on my IG if you are interested in my art. And yeah, it took a little bit more time than it could have, but in the end I think it came out pretty well. This video has only 40 something minutes, so those 4 hours came to 40 something minutes. I'm glad that at least it didn't surpass 1 hour, because then I think it would be a little bit too much. But I'm glad how it came out. I'm very happy with the results, and I would really like to know what you think about this build. In my opinion, it came out very, very fun. I really had a lot of fun with this build. Although it took me some time, it's obvious because it's super big and I had a lot of things to do. I had like the bedroom, right? Then we had the living room and all that, and then we had the basement, which obviously also took a lot of time because there was a lot of details that I added in the basement, but you will see it soon. And I think it was for me it was really fun building this, and I wish you have fun watching this as well. And yeah, this is her little abode, you know. I imagine that she built this house, or her grandparents built this house and she used to live with them. They passed this house to her, and she decided to create a kitchen outdoors, you know, with that little bridge coming from the dining space to the kitchen. And I think it came out really well. I really wanted to create a specific place for her to cook, for her to bake her stuff and experiment with things. And I think it was, you know, a good idea, because I really like the idea of going out to the kitchen and to cook something, because it's kind of more special, you know, and I really wanted to bring more of that emphasis on the kitchen, because it's so special to her as well, you know. So she has chickens, she has a cow. If you want, you can add a horse, but I wouldn't imagine there is much space for a horse, only if you would take out the gardening stuff, like the plantations and things like that I've placed there, and that maybe there you would have some more space for your horse. This one have fur on Bagley, so you basically can walk with your horse anywhere. It's a pretty big world as well, so you can go ahead, and if you want a horse, you can place a horse, but just make sure that you don't have, you know, that many things as I do right now, because I don't think a horse would fit in there. But yeah, in general, she has bees, she has chickens for the eggs, she has milk from the cow, she has all of the good stuff to actually start and do her own stuff. She has her own fruits, and she grows her own veggies and what do you call those? Grapefruits? Is it? No, it's not grapefruit. Hold on. Grapes. Yeah, basically grapes, yeah. She has her own grapes to create her own nectar and things like that, so she's basically all self-sustainable. I also have a few solar panels out there, so she can also live more sustainably, where she doesn't have to be paying too much for the bills. She has her own energy. And yeah, this is here I'm building the kitchen. I really wanted to continue on with the greens and dark woods. So that's what I wanted to do. And I also added a little bit more of a white color to the walls to bring this place to a more light space, right? So you don't spend too much time in like a darker place, because the house is already like quite darker. I apologize. And yeah, I wanted to go for this reddish, but then I changed it up a little bit, which is alright. I think either way, this reddish or not, it will go pretty well with what we are doing here. And yeah, this is basically the idea, you know, creating a more depth into this build, bring more juicy colors and intricate colors together, and actually create something that whenever you visit it, it's, you know, it has some depth to it. It has some emotional charge that feels like home, feels you know, it feels like it's hugging, and you know, I really wanted to bring something like that. And on Hamford on Bagway, I think it's the perfect place to do that, you know. So yeah, I continue adding some details. I really like to add these details with the cauldron, with the pies, and things like that, and I think it came out really fun. I really enjoyed it, and I wish you enjoy this build as well. I wish you continue enjoying, and I will see you all very soon. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. I apologize once again for taking some time to upload this, but I really want to take my time to actually edit this well and not hurry too much, so it came out pretty well. I really appreciate you, and thank you so much for watching. Daria is surfing out. Bye bye. you.